Hello YouTube, I am Andrew Does Hair, and I want to talk to you about something that I've been kind of putting off for like 5 or 6 years. I've been needing to do a video like this, but I haven't wanted to. I don't know why. Maybe it's maybe I feel too vulnerable talking about this, but I just want to introduce you to my products, talk about them, and give you a little history about how they came to be and show you some ways that I like to use them. So this is by no means intended to be like a sales pitch. You know, I don't like selling stuff. If you notice on my Instagram, I rarely talk about the product. I'll mention that I use it, but I'm not out there telling people to buy it. And even with this video, while I hope that it's informative to help you to understand whether or not it's a product that might be right for you, I'm by no means trying to push anybody to buy anything that isn't right for them. To give you a bit of a backstory, I'll just tell you about my career up to the point where I created the product. I started cutting hair, I don't know, early 2000s, and in the beginning I did all kinds of hair, long hair, short hair. I did a little bit of color, I did some cutting. And after about 3 to 5 years behind the chair, I started to become very busy with short hair. It just kind of happened naturally that way. More clients with short hair found something remarkable about the work that I was doing and decided to come back. Around my 5th year, I was heavily working with short hair, and I was really using very simple, basic products. You know, I would look at some of my coworkers' stations and they would have like a blow dry spray, a thickening tonic, 3 different kinds of gels, and 2 different kinds of hairsprays. And on my station, I always had like 1 product, maybe 2. There was this one product that I absolutely loved, and I used it on pretty much everybody. And suddenly, without warning, they discontinued it. And at that point, I called the distributor and I said, hey, let me get the rest of what you have in stock. And for about 6 months, I was kind of burning through that inventory that I had purchased. And as I was watching it dwindle, I was trying other products and trying to see what worked for me and what worked for my clients. And it was such a hard little target to try to hit in what I was looking for. I wanted something that was super versatile. I wanted something that didn't have a heavy fragrance. I wanted something that wasn't greasy or wax-based. And around that time, most like short hair products were typically wax-based and they had some heavy fragrances and or oil-based even. And it just didn't work for me. I was doing a lot of thermal styling, a lot of blow drying, a lot of flat ironing, and I would put in a wax and the hair would just curl up again. And so I was trying to find these like matte products, and most of the time if I found something that gave me the finish I wanted, it would be something like a sea salt spray or something really light like that. And it didn't quite have enough texture to it. It had some, and it was, you know, closer to the finish I wanted. So anyways, during this time, I'm trying all these different products, looking for the perfect product, and nothing worked. And I honestly started to get, I don't know if I'd say depressed, but I started to get to a point where I wasn't excited to finish somebody's hair because whatever I was putting in the hair, I just didn't like it as much. It smelled too strong, or it was oily looking, or it would curl the hair back up even. Or if I was using like a sea salt spray or something, it just wasn't quite grippy enough. And I happened to meet somebody who knew somebody who had a connection, and I was able to get in touch with like a chemist. And what I did is I brought my last jar of my old favorite product and I said, I want this, can you copy this? And then the more I worked with them on this, it was like, well, actually I would prefer if it was lighter than this, and actually I would prefer if it was more matte than it too. And so by the time we had the finished product, it was nothing like what my old favorite was like. It was just, it started to be roughly based on that, but it became lighter and it became more matte. And eventually what we ended up with is ADH Dry. Now initially, I thought it would be really cool to have it just have no fragrance. I thought it would be cool to have a product that smelled like nothing, but I found that without fragrance in there, it does smell a little bit like a box of crayons. So we put in a light fragrance. And when I first had this product made, I had Instagram at the time, but I think I had like 10,000 followers maybe. It was nothing huge. It was nothing remarkable. It was nothing worth like trying to build a product empire on, and that was never my intention. I made the product because I needed a product, and my clients loved this stuff, and I love this stuff. The first batch that I got was 60 jars with no labels even, and I was just selling them to my clients. But eventually, through Instagram, people were saying, hey, what product are you using? And 2 things happened around this time, so I'm gonna like branch off on this side of the story and then come back to the other side of the story. So on one side, I would do a hairstyle that required 8 minutes of blow drying, a little bit of teasing, and then I put a little bit of product in it. And people would go, what product did this? And I go, hang on, actually, it's the blow dryer, it's the tease, it's the texture, and I'd go on and on about all these other things that it was. And I started to notice that like the internet culture for hair was very much like, cut your hair to this length, use this product, get this look. And I'm like, that's not how it works. There's so much more to it. And kind of frustration trying to get this point across to consumers online that, hey, the jar of product didn't do this work. I did this work. The product is like a little bit of a supplement. It's kind of like you go to the gym, you break down your muscles, and then you refuel with protein, right? But that doesn't mean, hey, which protein powder will make me buff. It's the whole routine. It's the whole exercise. And so during that time, I coined a phrase, good hair doesn't come from a jar, which is now our trademark slogan. And if you look at the back of either of my jars, it's the biggest font on there after the logo. So I put this on the jar because it was really, really important to me that people didn't just think, oh, if I buy this product, I'll have what the guy in the picture had. Or if you think that a celebrity rolls out of bed, takes product and goes like this, and then goes to the red carpet and looks the way they look, you're mistaken. There's so much more that goes into it. And so that's why the jars say good hair doesn't come from a jar. And then on top of that, I do very, very firmly believe that through a screen, if I sat here and did some hair tutorials, I could give you some generalized basics on how hairstyling works. But every time I do that, and I literally just read a comment on one of my recent hairstyling videos that is perfect for this, they say, yeah, but my hair's not like this. What about my hair? Best person to show you how your hair works is a barber or stylist who knows what they're doing. So on the jar, instead of saying, take a dime size amount and apply it to damp or dry hair, it doesn't say any of that. Underneath, good hair doesn't come from a jar. The jar says, the right barber or hairstylist can tell you more about your hair than anything on a jar ever could. And so it's very, very much a part of my being, my reason for being, for even keeping this company a company, is that I want people to trust their barbers more and ask these questions. How do I use a blow dryer? How do I use a flat iron? How can I use this product? And so everything about the product was kind of intended to be a tangible, like, brochure, just to put emphasis back on the potential of the actual person doing your hair, and not like, hey, go to Andrew and he'll teach you online how to do your hair, and then buy this product. And yeah, forget the guy that cuts your hair. He doesn't know anything. Andrew knows. No, that's absolutely not at all the way I want any of this to work. I just went way off on a tangent. Anyway, so point being, I'm very, very proud to say that today, like 9 out of 10 jars we sell are through a professional. And we do offer retail on the website directly from me. And I guess in that case, you are buying it from a professional, but we much prefer if you buy it from a salon or barbershop, because that person can show you how to get the most out of it. And so I'm gonna give you tips and tricks and how I use it by the end of this video, but you will get so much more from an actual professional who can touch your hair and feel your hair and see what's up with your hair. So going back to where I split off my attention there, when people online were asking what product did you use to do this, and I would explain the whole thing, eventually people were like, well, can I buy some? And I didn't know how to sell stuff online. I didn't know anything about like a resale permit or taxes or LLCs or any of that. So I just started putting it on eBay. And for a couple months, I was just, every day after work, I'd go ship jars on eBay. And I never expected it to become like a thing or a product line, right? And I never expected, at that point we had no salons or barbershops carrying it. And I was just, getting 60 jars every other month here and there. And it was just like a casual, fun little thing that was kind of for my clients and I. And eventually, a friend of mine, Ricky Hoover, who had a barbershop in Fullerton at the time, he was like, hey, can I carry that in my shop? And I was like, yeah, okay. I drove over a dozen jars to him, and that's what got us into wholesale. And so today we have 250 resellers who are ordering the product at wholesale in the US, and then we have more in the UK and Ireland. And as I said a minute ago, that is like the core, that's what I believe in, is I want people going to their barber to get their product, because their barber can show them how to use it better than I can. So after eBay, I slowly got my stuff together, and I got trademarks, and I got an LLC, and I got a website, and I started doing wholesale more often, and I was doing retail through the website, and the company kind of started to grow. Eventually, though, I was working full-time behind the chair. Like, I am an actual hairdresser. I don't just like play one on TV. I was working full-time behind the chair. I was doing seminars on the weekends, and then whenever I could, I was shipping product and answering emails, and it got to be too much. And then comes my best friend, David, who I've known since I was like 12 years old, and the guy is just like not wired the way that I am. Like, to me, an email gives me anxiety, but to him, like, he can answer an email while he's talking to you and not miss a beat. And so David comes in and he kind of helped me out with things. And to this day, he manages the company. If you ever email about your shipping or about anything like that, you're gonna get David, because he knows that stuff and I don't know that stuff. But with David's help, we were able to grow into what we are now. It's been amazing to watch it grow, and I am so unbelievably grateful for the response of all of you out there who have found value in the products. I don't know what tomorrow will look like. Hopefully more like today, because it's been good, and I really appreciate every single one of you. So that's the history of the product. That's how it came to be about, and that's how we came to be standing in this office right here. So about these products specifically, what is in the jar? Not good hair, that's for sure. I'll start off by talking about the similarities between both ADH Dry and ADH Wet. Now, mind you, the ADH part was just added for trademark reasons. I typically just refer to them as dry and wet if I'm talking. Anyway, so the similarities between dry and wet is that they both come in a 4-ounce jar. Now, for a product like dry, something with more of a matte finish, that's actually a pretty huge jar. Most kind of matte finish clays and putties and stuff, they'll come in like a 1.4 to 2 ounce jar. And way back in the beginning, I was like adamant. I was like, I want it in a big jar, big jar. Now, ADH Wet it's a pretty standard size jar for what it is. It's kind of like a heavy gel, but both jars are 4 ounces. The design on the jar, we kind of intentionally wanted it to be, I don't want to say bland and make it sound like a bad thing, but the idea was I wanted it to look at home, both in a high-end salon or in like a blue-collar barbershop. I didn't want to have, tattoo art and hot rods on the pomade-like product and exclude a whole aspect of people who are like, well, I'm not a greaser, I don't need that product. So I just wanted it to be basic. It's a for everybody product. And I guess while I'm talking about who it's for, a lot of people assume it's a men's grooming product, but I use it in women's hair all the time. A lot of people use it for updos and braids. Like if you want to get those really big, loose, beachy braids, ADH Dry is great for that. So the design of the package, the big old 4-ounce jars, we just try to keep it simple. We try to keep it universal. We wanted to make it something that everybody could, I guess, relate to and not feel excluded by specific branding that doesn't seem targeted toward them. At one point I was using a blow dry spray that I really liked, but it came in a pink sparkly bottle and it was so hard to get guys to buy that. And so the packaging is just basic, for lack of a better sounding term. Both of the products are water-based, and this was also really key. I mentioned earlier that I had done a lot of I do a lot of thermal styling, and if you don't know, when you style your hair with heat, it only stays styled until it gets wet again. And so if you put a product on there that's like oil-based or wax-based, it's a lot like, you put lip balm on to keep your lips moist, and that's oil-based or wax-based. And so when you put that kind of product in your hair, it more or less moisturizes your hair. And so if you have hair that's thermally styled and you moisturize it, you're gonna lose that style. It's gonna fall apart. And so both these products are water-based. They both melt down and go away pretty quickly and easily with any moisture, which, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Like if you go play a soccer game and you get all sweaty, your hair might melt. But when you go to rinse it out, it rinses out very easily. If you get it on your hands, it'll rinse off with water very easily. In fact, one of the things I like to do with ADH Dry is, because it's water-based, sometimes I'll take a lump of it and put it into a water bottle and let it sit there overnight until it just dissipates and becomes cloudy water. And then I'll kind of use that literally like I would use a sea salt spray. It's just like the lightest application of product possible. If you do have a hard time rinsing out the product, you're using too much of it, I guarantee it. As with anything that's water-based, if you're trying to wash a load of it out, it's gonna be hard to get out. But if you use it appropriately, it rinses out very easily. Both products are made right here in the USA in small factories and small batches. One of the key things about the products being water-based as well is that they can go in as a pre-styler or they can go in afterward. A lot of times I'll find that I actually prefer both products to go in before a blow dry, because what happens is the moisture in the hair will kind of dilute the product a little bit and give it an even more mild kind of feel and hold and finish. And then at the same time, applying the heat from the blow dryer will still break it down even further. And so if I'm styling hair that's very fine and I want to give it a little more body and a little more grit, and so that the hairs kind of stick to each other and support each other up to create volume, I'll put in ADH Dry before I blow dry the hair. But if I'm working with hair that's very coarse and and kind of has a dry texture to it. You know, the kind of hair that almost always looks like it has split ends even when it doesn't. I'll put an ADH Wet while it's damp, and then I'll run a blow dryer through it, and that'll kind of, on the right kind of hair, by the time it's blow dried, it doesn't feel like there's even any product in it at all in that case. If you do it on the wrong kind of hair, like if you have fine hair and you blow dry ADH Wet in there, you're gonna have stringy, greasy hair by the end, greasy looking hair. There's not literally any grease in the product, but, and then likewise, if you take ADH Dry and you put it in hair that's really coarse and curly and poofy and tends to have that dry texture to begin with, you're gonna end up with like really chalky, frizzy hair. So there is a wrong time for each product and there is a right time for each product. When I'm using ADH Dry, I typically, as I said, I like to put it in before the blow dry, probably a dime size amount for the front half of the head, a dime size amount for the back half of the head, and then rake it through, comb it through. Before the product goes in, even in this case, you want to completely emulsify it in your hands. Like, you don't want any thick spots or any lumps. In fact, if you sit and you rub it long enough, you'll notice that it'll become like a brighter white, like a more opaque kind of white. Once that happens, then it's ready for the product to go in. So I'll rake it through damp hair that way and then blow dry it. And by the end of blow drying, I'll kind of know if I need to apply more product. Most of the time I don't, but in the rare case that maybe I do need a little more, I typically would put ADH Dry on the root of the hair more so than the ends, because the product doesn't have a bunch of hold. It's not heavy by any means. Like, because it comes in a jar and it looks like a pomade, people often try to treat it like that, but think of it more like a solid sea salt spray. So you want to put it kind of on the root just to support the hairs up, but you don't want to get it too much on the ends because then it'll cause the hairs to fall down and the weight of the product will pull the hair down. I would say 8 out of 10 heads that I work on get ADH Dry put in it before or after the blow dry. As I said earlier, I wanted a very versatile product, and this product is like, I want to say, I can use it on almost every client, not because, hey, the product is so good at everything, but it's just so versatile at everything. If you barely use it, you get just a little bit of grip in the hair. If you load it up, well, I don't recommend loading it up, but if you load it up, you'll get some bad results as well. It'll start to look greasy, it'll start to look chalky. It's definitely not intended to work like a gel. Like, if you put a whole bunch of it in there and try to spike hair up or slick hair back, I guarantee you're gonna hate the results. However, on that note, I've gotten comments and messages over the years from people who, they'll send me a picture of their hair, or they'll tell me like, oh, I love your product, I use it like this, and I'll look at the picture and I used to cringe like, oh my God, they're using it wrong. But I realize at the end of the day, whatever you're doing for your hair, if it's working for you, then there is no wrong. But as far as how I use the product, sparingly. Dime size amount, rubbed real thin on the fingers, applied throughout while damp, and then applied on the roots after dry. So with ADH Wet, that one's also super versatile. Again, if you put it in damp hair before you blow dry it, it'll be freaking sleek. Like, your hair will be so slick and sleek. And then afterward, if you apply it, it has some good shine to it. But this product, while it has a lot more hold than ADH Dry, it doesn't get hard. Like, when it does firm up, it doesn't have that like rock hard feel. It still has like a somewhat gummy kind of feel to it while firm. And at the same time, if you slick the hair up with it and you let it dry and set, it's gonna maintain some shine to it. But if you move the hair afterward, it does not flake and the shine goes away. And so a lot of times for clients who need to get a quick hairstyle and get out the door, I'll teach them how to take ADH Wet, put it in damp hair, comb it flat to the head or whatever, kind of wet style it more or less, give it a wet set. And then once it's completely dry, you get to work and you shake it out and it'll have more of a soft, movable, matte look to it. And so it's essentially, it's kind of like a setting lotion, but heavier. So a lot of people, when you open the jar and you feel it, you think it's just a pomade. And while it can do the job of a pomade from time to time, it's not heavy duty like some of the other pomades on the market that can like glue your cowlicks down. It's not really meant to do that. It's, like I just said, it's like a heavy setting lotion. And so if you're gonna do any kind of wet style or wet setting, this product's great for that. And then finally, something I like to do with both products is kind of interchange them. So at times I'll have somebody who has that really dry, coarse hair, and so I'll put in ADH Wet while it's damp and then blow dry it all out and get it super smooth and soft and kind of shiny. But then they want a matte finish, so then I'll go back and finish it with ADH Dry. Or sometimes I'll do the reverse. If somebody has very fine hair, I'll blow dry it with ADH Dry to get it kind of like built up, and then I'll use just the tiniest amount of ADH Wet to put a glossy finish on it. And so they can be interchanged. And on that note, they both actually have the exact same fragrance. So if you do mix them, it doesn't clash. So I'm sure you guys appreciate full honesty, and I will be fully honest and say that while I do mostly only use those two products, there are a handful of other products I use. Sometimes I use a finishing spray. Typically, if somebody's like going to a wedding or an event and they need the hair to stay perfect all day, I do rely on finishing sprays for that. And I don't have a specific brand that I like. I kind of try different ones here and there. But both of my products don't have that kind of all day rock hard finish. If you want that, I add it with hairspray. Another thing that I've dabbled with was I used to use those texture powders a little bit because at the time that they kind of blew up, they were neat and different. And I always like bringing that to my clients is here's something neat and different. But I started to find that my clients who gravitated toward those types of products and ended up using them, a lot of times they would end up getting like, their hair would get kind of dry and brittle feeling from overusing the product. And I kind of got over it. Like it was fun at first to use texturizing powders, but I found that I didn't get as much control with them. You'd put it in the hair and then suddenly the hair was so sticky that you couldn't work with it. And so I have used those. I do keep one around for like just the right occasion, typically just to get rid of shine on the scalp if I'm too lazy to shampoo somebody's hair. Another product that I use regularly is like a heat protectant / oil for before blow drying. And so this is in the case of like if I'm doing a graduated bob and I need to smooth the hair out, but I don't want any weight in it, I'll use a product like that. Or to be completely honest, sometimes if somebody doesn't need anything in their hair before a blow dry, I'll use a blow dry spray just so that they feel like they got a little something extra, even if they absolutely didn't need it. And so that's full honesty. I do use other products and those are basically it. Common question I'm asked is, Andrew, are you going to expand the line? Are you going to do a powder? Are you going to do a hairspray? My answer is no. The reason I don't plan to expand the line to do those things is there's already good ones on the market. When I came out with ADH Dry, as I explained, I couldn't find anything that would do what I wanted it to do, so I made something to do what I wanted it to do. And when we later did ADH Wet, there was two main reasons we wanted to do it. So for one, ADH Dry can't do everything. It's not like the wonderful use-all for everything product. And so I was like, it would be really cool if I had like the polar opposite product at my disposal. Like not something that was slightly different, but completely opposite, almost like the yin to the yang, right? And so I started dreaming of having something that could have similarities in that it's water-based and light and comes in a big jar and all, but would also have a lot of differences. And the other reason is I found a lot of these heavier jelly setting pomade products on the market were branded in a way that, and I mean not to offend any of these companies if anyone sees this, branded in a way that if you don't drive a hot rod and have tattoos, this product's not for you. Like you have to be a tough guy to use this product. And I felt like there was a little bit of a hole in the market. I've talked to a lot of salons who said, oh, well, we would love to get a pomade, but that product doesn't look like it's a good fit here. And so I thought, you know what, if I'm gonna make a product, I'll make it fill that void. And it can sit in a salon comfortably, and it can sit in a barbershop comfortably. It's a product for everyone, you know? So that's everything. This video turned out a lot longer than I expected it to, and I hope you learned something from it. If you are at all interested in the product, if you want to buy it at retail, you can get it at adhbrand.com. However, as I said, I very much prefer if people are buying it through professionals. If you are a barber or a stylist and you own a salon or barbershop or a private studio and you're interested in carrying the product, you can email my good friend David at sales@adhbrand.com. And what he'll do is kind of put you through a introductory process where we just want to get some basic information like your address, and we collect like license info because we want to make sure that it's not being sold in like swap meets or garages or something. Like we want to make sure we're dealing with professionals here. And so we collect some information and then we can get you on board to buy it wholesale, which is deeply discounted from buying at retail. And you know, if you're running a business trying to resell product, you absolutely want to get on that wholesale. Thank you so much for watching. Leave any hate that you have for me in the comments below, and let me know what you think. Ask any questions, and you know, I look forward to hearing from you.